The Regents Podcast. The Regents Podcast. All right, everyone.
Hey.
Hello. Welcome back to the Regents Podcast.
That's right. Welcome. We're two best friends
who quit their jobs
to pursue their passions.
Hey.
Okay. I am Aja Moye.
And I am Ellyn with a Y.
Guys, for joining us again. We're so excited.
We are so excited. It's like New Year, same us.
Same us.
Motivated.
Yes. And like ready to activate.
Yes. And really, really excited to record. Great energy today. Super excited to bring a really fun concept of the idea of mindset and mindset overhaul and reassessing your goals, right? So we don't really like to date ourselves, but we're into the new year.
Yeah.
We're into the new year, and essentially maybe some things have gone awry, right?
Maybe
the year has gotten off to a little bit of a shaky start.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe Mother Nature said, not on my planet.
Yeah. Maybe.
and decided to do a couple things to really mess with people.
Yeah.
And so, in doing so, we want to talk a little bit about when plans change and adapting your mindset to handle those changes to still be able to pursue your goals, or maybe those goals need to evolve and change anyway.
Right.
So we really want to talk about like reframing what success looks like. Okay. And also just the idea of like when things arise in your life, how do you pivot? And is it something that you're physically just kind of have to get around, and how do you pivot? Or is it a realization and a mindset change of like, oh, okay, the goal I set for myself might not be the goal that I want to pursue any longer based on new information or based on new things that have happened in life. So I feel really inspired because I do feel like this really works for us and applies for us, but I'm sure applies for a lot of people who are listening, who are, thought things were going to go very much straight down the path of A to B.
Right. Upward trajectory.
Exactly. And, I actually recently heard, what's her name? She plays Barbara on Abbott Elementary, the actress who plays Barbara on Abbott Elementary. What's her name?
Cheryl Lee Ralph.
Obsessed. I'm absolutely obsessed with her. I love her story. I love her story about her relationship. I love her journey, everything. I'm obsessed. If you don't know, now you do. But she just recently said, and I think that this, again, very apropos of the topic, she climbed the rocky side of the mountain, but she's at the top.
Ah, I like that.
Right? She's like, I may have had to climb the rocky side of the mountain. Well, you know how she talks.
Yeah.
I love the way she talks. I feel like I'm in church every time she speaks. But she's like, I had to climb the rocky side of the mountain, but I am at the top regardless. And I was like, you know what? It probably tastes really sweet because of all the hard work that it took to get there.
Precisely.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that quote.
Right? I mean, I would say it's a, what do we say when it's like maybe not a direct quote?
Right.
But it's basically what she said.
Adaptation.
Yeah. It's an interpretation of the sentiment that she put out there. And so I think the first thing to really talk about, like when life maybe it shifts your focus or takes like an unexpected turn, right? Like what is actually triggering a shift in goals or triggering like the idea of a need to pivot, right? Like could be a milestone, could be a career change, whether it was something you chose or didn't choose, right? Like we walked into this eyes wide open, choosing to leave, Freudian slip, choosing to leave our careers. But, some people don't have that choice. Some people, that choice is made for them. Hopefully you got a severance package. However, right. But sometimes that happens, right? External challenges, health issues, you get presented with somebody in your family that's not in good health. You have to take on more of a caretaker role, or just in general, coming to a place of like, I cannot continue a day further on this path. Right. So the question then becomes, how do you distinguish between, is this a necessary pivot or a temporary pause in the direction, or in general, which is something I think I struggle with the most, is a temporary moment of self-doubt. Am I on the right path? Am I doing the right thing? You know, I feel like sometimes, and I'm curious to hear your idea of like distinguishing between the two. I think sometimes if I think too much, you know, if I allow, it's like one thing to be really present in my body and I'm doing my journaling and I'm doing this, that, and the third, and we can talk about like what we do. But, you know, sometimes if you start to think too much or too far into the future or too much about the reality of like how attainable is my goal, I can get a little bit self-doubty.
Self-doubty.
Yeah. So I have to be really conscious of that. But I'm curious about your perspective of like, what does trigger a shift in goals? Is it like, how do you know it's a necessary pivot versus something that is maybe temporary or maybe just kind of a fleeting feeling or emotion?
Right. Wow. That was weighted. You know, you mentioned it in that whole kind of intro that you said, but it's really about assessing what the situation is.
Yeah.
What event is happening or has happened that's causing you to even question what your goals were? And I think at the core of it all, it's probably, is it something that's in or out of your control? Because once you figure that out, I feel like you can take the next step, you know, and
yes,
we don't figure out the whole course. We always just take the next step. So if it's like what you mentioned, if it's a health issue with you or a close loved one or something like that's likely, sometimes you are in control of that, but maybe sometimes you're not in control. It's something that you have to react to and kind of pivot from there. And once you know that, then you can determine, I feel, at least if not 100%, you can mostly determine, is this something where I really need to like totally change my course? Can I do that from there? Or is this something that's just going to delay me a little bit longer? I need to have grace with myself in this period of life, deal with this because, you know, it takes all of my energy or focus.
Yeah.
And with the last thing that you mentioned about having like temporary doubt, I feel like if it's a goal that you set when you were at your highest, you were just thinking with no thoughts of failure. You're just like, this is what I could do if I just could not fail, you know?
Yeah.
Temporary self-doubt. I feel like we know not to rely on that or to go that route if we can realize that that's just a moment of fear. Make a decision based on fear.
Yeah.
Fear decisions are never really that great.
Yeah.
So I think knowing whether this is something that you can or cannot control helps you then identify of those three tracks, like where does that take me?
Yeah.
Is it a pivot? Is it maybe a pause or delay? Or is it something where, you know, that I'm just being fearful because of this event? And then you can kind of go from there.
And that's, I think you brought up so many good points. I think the first one being fear. I think we had a podcast episode where we talked about that Dune quote, fear being the mind killer.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have to let fear move through you and out of you.
And out.
I heard on a podcast years ago and it really stuck with me. Fear is kind of an ever-present party in life. And that is a figure that can never be in the driver's seat.
Right.
And can never be in the passenger seat. You can't have them picking the music. You can't have them helping. You can't have it helping with the map. Right. You can't have it reacting when something, oh, that was car came close. Oh God, you know, you can't have that, you know, fear has to sit in the back.
Yeah.
Fear has to sit in the back of the car. And that kind of like analogy of, you know, oh, that's right. Like the fear has to go back there. Yeah, I can do it with fear inside me still.
Absolutely.
But fear doesn't get to have a navigating role in the car on the journey. Yes.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
That's so true. Because then when you're doing it with fear, that's when we get to be courageous, right? It's like, I did it anyway. And our story is always going to kind of include that, because it was just like, yeah, I was fearful.
Yeah.
Even with as much planning as I did, I was still fearful.
Yeah.
Even without as much planning as you did, you're still fearful.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no way to really, as you mentioned, kind of let go of that. Like, oh, I'm just absolutely 100% fearless. So you have to learn how to make decisions based on, even though you have the fear, don't let it guide you and, dictate your life, because that was up.
No. And also what you mentioned about control, like what do I have control over and what do I not have control over? That is like, I mean, you're talking to the core of my like therapy journey since I was a teenager, right? Of like what's within my control and what's not within my control. And Mel Robbins actually just put out a book called Let Them. Yeah. She just came out with a book called Let Them. And it's essentially like the idea that like when you are so concerned with like others, or like when you're trying to like tell someone how they should be, or like tell them that this is how you want to be and you want them to believe you in some way, like any type of like assertion of control is like allowing other people or other situations or external factors to actually have control over you.
Right.
And I feel like that's such a big thing I've really been leaning into, and more and more and more in my life. Like I used to get really, really worked up about a particular person in my extended network is what I'll say.
Okay.
Being really gray.
That's right. Keep it gray.
Yeah, I want to keep this one pretty gray. Oh my God. I posted something about like a friendship breakup in high school, like about on TikTok, and it was just like inspired by a song I heard. And this is an anecdote. And I was intentionally very much not talking about the actual reason we broke up or the intricacies of that friendship breakup, just the concept of a friendship breakup being very, very hard. And someone from high school, which I don't have a ton of people that follow me from high school, and I had identified that it was friends from high school. Someone from high school was like, drop names, like names. And I was just like, this is why I didn't say anything very specific.
Exactly. Because they're looking and dissecting.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm not here to I'm not here to give salacious details about my life. We can talk about Love is Blind till the cows come home, but
they've chosen to put their lives on.
Exactly. And again, like I can talk about how I feel, what I felt, what my experience has been. But again, I'm not trying to like tell another person's story. So anyway, back to the concept of control. I feel like everything has been leading up to the last couple of years and my evolution of my relationship with this extended person in my world, that I used to get so worked up and so twisted by the way that this person operated. And I felt the need that I needed to like lawyer them into this corner submission. No, seriously. And it was like, there was like and as I got older and stopped trying to, I started to realize some things about this person and why they'd be operating the way they were, and perhaps why they're so unhappy, and starting to understand that their unhappiness is coming from this like really deep rooted place within them of failure. And like from my perspective. And I realized that all of this showboating and all of this debate me and lawyering at me. And I'm like, I'm just a younger person and you're coming at a kid, like that's not right. And so as I got older and as I grew up, I recognized what was happening. And I was like, I don't need to be a part of that dynamic anymore. And I started to take a step back, and that was me taking control of myself and being in control of my emotions. And now when this person that I have to be around says anything or does anything, and now that has extended into many more people where, there is a lot of forced proximity with some people that you don't necessarily agree with or want to be around in life sometimes. But I've come to the place where I'm like, it's like water off a duck's back.
Yeah.
It has no ounce of any connection or input, or it doesn't take hold in me, anything they do or say, I just am like, I feel sad for the reality of what I believe to be their situation. And it just doesn't, it doesn't affect me the way that it did. And that was me not even, and like hearing them at the table. Oh, I don't even hear it. It doesn't even enter my frequency. Truly. Right. It doesn't even enter. And I'll be sitting right in the room with this person, and it doesn't even register, because I am in control of who I am and my frequency and where I go and who I let into my world. And once I've really started to like lean into that, and like, I catch myself 110%. Oh, I feel this, I feel that, I feel this, I feel that about like other situations that I haven't had such clarity around.
Right.
And when that stuff happens, I have to kind of come back to be like, I cannot control it. It's not my situation to own. I have feelings about it, but those feelings aren't serving me and they're not serving them. It's like, so I have the control to let it go.
Right.
So that's definitely, when you talk about control, I really resonate with that idea of like, is it in my control or is it not? Because if it's not, what can I do? Yeah. Let go and let God.
Exactly. I think if more of us took inventory more often about what it is that we're in control of and what we're not, the world would be a better place.
Yeah.
Because, that's what also derails us. Sometimes it's not even events that really even affect us. It's just something that is going on, and the way that we're reacting to it is derailing us off our goals.
Yes.
So, and that, again, that's where you get back to the core of it. Just like, okay, I realize I'm off my goals. One, realize whether or not you're on the path that you need to be on.
Yeah.
And two, realize if it's something, whatever that thing is it that relationship, the thing that person said, some external factor, it's the weather, whatever.
The news.
And listen, I'm so happy you said that, because I've seen how something like the news, which it's twofold, right? So it's important to stay informed and know what's happening in your world. However, I've seen so many people get taken away by what the news proposes to them, because it's a perpetual cycle of bad things happening, or very dramatic type of things, seemingly dramatic things that may or may not have a direct impact on you. Allowing those types of things to kind of dictate your thought process, how you live your life or whatever, it sends people for a ride.
Yeah.
And I say all that to say, sometimes you have to realize what habits you have, and if they're going to allow you to get to whatever the goal is. You know what I mean? I have so many family members and friends or whatever who rely on that. And I would kind of say it's not even, at first thought, I'm just like, oh, like an older generation, because they're used to watching the news, the evening news or something like that. But now we have different news sources.
Yeah.
It could be TikTok or Instagram or Google or whatever. So maybe you're not watching the 5 o'clock news or the 9 o'clock prime time slot, but you're getting inundated every minute, every hour with notifications about something derailing you. And it's all an assessment, a self-assessment, what it is, and staying laser focused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. I do feel like, especially in our current culture and society, like the news can really whip you up. And just having been on the media side of things, like it's clicks, baby. It's ad impressions, it's views, like it's breaking news every 2 seconds. And it's like, you really do have to retain some semblance of, control. You can't be taking that information in all the time, especially if you're like a deeply empathetic person. Stuff that's happening in the world can be very, very upsetting, and, for better or worse, like compartmentalizing. And I think I talk about this a lot because, I'm a big, laugh to keep from crying person. And I'm a big, I can't let things all the way into my heart and my emotions all the time because it's too much. It's too overwhelming. Right. Yeah. It is. And so I think that like, controlling how much you consume or, controlling when you consume it or where you're consuming it from is like a pretty important part that is within your control. And when you relinquish your control of your emotions and you let the enormity of the situation that's in front of you take you emotionally away from center, it's like, not only is the thing in the world upsetting, but now I am personally not where I want to be. Like emotionally, my emotional center is off. And how can I do anything to make things better in the world if I'm not okay?
Thank you. That part.
And that's the thing. Like I just keep coming back to like, I can't solve every problem in the world, but I can do things every day in my real life to make sure I'm good so that I can help others. And like, that's, if we all operated like that, not like me, I'm saying like if we all operated like take care, like put your oxygen mask on so that you can take care of others, like it would be a nicer place.
A nicer planet. Yeah.
And I think that actually brings me into the next topic to talk about, which is the idea of like reframing and reframing success. So it's like I said, like what I do is not what everyone should do. It's just, how do you reframe what success looks like, right? If you reflect on the difference between, what society thinks is success, what your family thinks is success, like what you think is success, and is success also measured, or is it different from personal fulfillment, right? Is it something that is one and the same to some? Maybe not. And I kind of grapple. I think I did initially grapple. I'll give you kind of an example. When I was younger, when I was first coming out of college, I was just like, I'm going to be on the Forbes 30 under 30 list. That was something I thought. Quickly stopped caring about that. Quickly had no desire to be once I got into the working world and was like, whoa, this is like a never ending group project with terrible group project team members. I was like, or like, when you get assigned a group project team, right? And then you have like one other person who you love and they're great. And then it's just the two of you doing all the work.
Oh, yeah.
If I had known, girl, I would not be. So there's that perspective. And then there's also, I had this idea of like, what is financial success? Once I reach this financial goal, I'm going to be gravy. I'm going to be good. Yeah. And there is a real like beauty and a glory in I achieved it.
Yeah.
And then the other side of it is I am not at all where I thought I would be when I achieved this goal, this financial goal, this number that I had in my mind that, once you make this start making this money, I'm going to be free. I'm going to fly. And then it's just like, well, inflation and taxes and, what you thought that was when you were a teenager, it's really not that. And whoa, you're actually that goal moved, you know what I mean? That's a bigger number to be able to be free. And so, those are two examples of like real world, like reframing of like, okay, those were like goals I thought I had for myself. And now that I've been on this journey of reframing like success, I think I've spoken a ton on this podcast about just the sense of peace that I feel and the day to day.
Enough about that.
I mean,
we really cannot.
And I think that that's what it allows us to be able to be present and make choices about what's controlling our emotions and where we put our energy and be able to be self-reflective is that we have prioritized the peace.
No, that part. And I want to say first of all, you can't put a price on peace. Like that in itself is already some form of success and
100%
in and of itself. But the other part is I am so much more aware in this phase of my life than I've ever been in my life. Because it's just me as a sole proprietor at this current moment. It requires more of me. It requires that I check in with myself more and really look at what I'm doing more. I can't just do run of the mill stuff day in, day out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because if I do that, I'm not doing anything. My business is not propelling forward.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you approach life as an employee, whether or not you are an employee and are happy to be in that, position, it's like sometimes, because everybody sometimes gets in a rut.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, along with the peace part, it's such a high level of self-awareness that I think entrepreneurship requires.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're more self-aware, it requires you to reassess more often, and not put the blinders on.
Yeah.
I think you can also be super rigid, which is, and I think you were alluding to this before, I can't recall if it was online or off, but being super rigid with your goals also doesn't help you.
Yeah.
Because you're in a phase where maybe you are in a rut, maybe it's life just lifing. You need to allow yourself some grace, to really just kind of hone in on your goals. Put the blinders on is to neglect your family or to neglect your health or whatever, and that's never good either. So finding that super delicate balance.
Yeah.
Okay, I know what my goals are. I had a intense deadline to reach it in 3 months or whatever. Maybe now I just move the marker just a little bit.
Yeah.
Still challenge myself, but not stress myself. You know what I mean?
100%. I think I definitely had a bit of a when this happens, then I'll have this, and this mentality of once I find it, I think even in terms of my weight, right? If you think about success stories with weight loss, whatever, I've gone back and forth. And there was a lot of I won't be able to have the life I want until I lose all of this weight. And that was a recurring conversation and theme in my life. And it was and it's something that I think I constantly chip away at year after year. And sometimes it surprisingly is a bigger mountain than last year. And it's no, dude, I chipped away at this. What the heck? And it's okay, well, but some stuff has come up and it grew a little bit, or it grew in a different way that I was not even expecting it to grow.
Yeah.
And keep chipping away, because this idea of you can't have your success until XYZ keeps it away from you indefinitely.
Yes. That's so good. And the thing about success that I feel it's been a recurring thing in self-help and personal development podcasts, books, whatever lately, is that success is not an end goal. So we very much have to enjoy the act of pursuing success.
Yeah.
That's the exciting part, because if we, like you said, if you put a number on it, you graduated college and thought it was this number that's going to make me happy, successful, and achieve everything that I want in life. Well, one, when you hit it, then what?
Yeah.
Okay. And then two, what if you hit that goal and it's not at all?
Mm-hmm.
And you hated the journey. You hated the journey. You loathed every act of it, but you were, outcome focused, just when I get the thing. Now what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Life is a culmination of all the days and the hours and the minutes that we spend.
Yeah.
We can't make it about that literal 1 minute when we get the trophy. Because there's just so much more.
That's so true. I think a lot about athletes who train every single day, right? And they reach this pinnacle, but they do it because they love it, right? So it's every day, it's the training, it's the repetition, it's the putting in the hard work. And it's yes, it's a realization of a goal at the end, but you have to be successful at all those other things to be able to achieve that thing.
Yeah.
And
I think there's this beautiful marriage that, dare I say, should happen.
Yeah.
When you're in pursuit of something, it's the outcome and the process. If I'm toiling away because I just really want this outcome, but I absolutely loathe the process, then that's not joy.
Yes.
But if I love the process and, I hate the outcome or whatever, it's just what am I doing this for? Maybe then I just feel like a hamster. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's important to realize too.
Oh, 100%. And then that actually brings up like the next kind of concept of, you know, if you're not enjoying the process, right? If the steps it takes to achieve the goal that you put out for yourself are no longer enjoyable and you're not enjoying the process to achieve that goal, how are we reassessing what that goal is? And then how are you taking like practical steps to rework that map towards whatever the goal becomes, right? Yeah. It's like, I think we talk about this idea of like, I have this idea, I've locked into it. And as the years have gone and changed, and again, this is like kind of what was my reality is that like, I set this goal for myself. I'm going to be 30 under 30. I'm going to make this set amount of money. Like when I was first graduating college, because I was just like, that's the goal I'm going to set for myself. I went to college for this. I put this idea of like being a creative entertainer on the back burner. This is what I went to college for, and I'm going to pursue this goal to its end. And then I quickly realized like the 30 under 30, like I reevaluated once I got into the space and I'm working in media in Manhattan. And I'm just like, no, like I did my fair share of like networking stuff. And like, you know, I moved up pretty quickly, and I was just like, to keep doing this and keep pursuing it, I feel empty. I don't feel fulfilled in this. Right. So for me, that was when I like did that inventory check of like, I do not feel fulfilled in this illustrious career up to this point. And that's when I started looking for something that gave me more meaning within the same style of career, which is how I found myself at Refinery. I knew I had to work somewhere where the subject matter meant something to me and was important. I felt like was going to be important for the world or relevant, or, you know, I couldn't stand the fact. And like, this is no shade to people who this is important to them. That's because it's important to you. It wasn't important to me. I was like the Andy Sachs of from Devil Wears Prada. I was like, I'm not supposed to be here when I was working at Vogue. And I knew models' names. Like I knew people walking in runway shows. I knew who was sitting in the front row. And I'm like, I don't care about this. Why is this information by osmosis inside of me? I was like, if I work somewhere where the subject matter is something I truly care about, and I am proof and living proof that that is actually what happened. When I got to Refinery, I was taking in so much information, female empowerment, everybody is beautiful, like ask for more, you know, to be able to, you know, go in and negotiate for yourself, like sex positive, like so much of the content that we covered was inside of me by osmosis. And that's exactly what I wanted, because I wanted to shift from just making money, just doing this, just being in this career to like, I need purpose. I need this to mean something. Yeah. You know? And that's when I was like, I started looking for new jobs, started interviewing, started letting people know I was like on the market, you know? And that's how I kind of like shifted and adjusted my path in that moment. And then when I was there, same thing of like, oh, you let people on camera? You let people that work here on camera? How do I get involved? How do I make my debut? How do I lights, cameras, action? You know what I'm saying? Like,
and did. Okay.
You know, so, I think that's like, once you start to feel like a little bit of a misalignment. And again, like maybe you don't know it yet. Maybe it's going to take some time. But for me, it was really the, like, it doesn't feel right. Yeah. And how do I kind of make those small adjustments? And again, that's like before I even got on the solopreneur journey.
Yes. And I want to ask you something about that. So for people who are an employee or not, how do they assess? Like, and we don't have to harp too much on it, but what are some things that you did or that prompted you to really think about, I don't feel like I'm in my purpose, or I don't feel like I'm doing something that's meaningful? Was it someone posed a question to you? Was it that you were just tired of, you know, the day in, day out process at your job? Like, what is it that prompts you? How does one, if they're not already intuitively doing that type of thing themselves, how can they get into that?
I think the first thing is like kind of, and I know it's tough because not everybody really does like to do like that introspection, but I think the first thing was really just acknowledging, like, physically, do I feel comfortable? Like in this place that I am working every day, do I physically feel comfortable? And that was something I immediately did not feel throughout the beginning half of my career in media. I just really felt physically out of place. My body wise, I was like bigger than many of the people around me. And I just felt like very like out of place. I didn't really ascribe to like luxury fat. Like it was a lot of like value misalignment, you know? And again, it's like, it's not like fashion is art, right? Like it's self-expression. Style is creativity. Like, you know, I'm all about creativity. I'm all about like self-expression and stuff. It's just not my avenue. So it felt very uncomfortable. The clothes I was wearing, you know, when I was even working early days when I was with Lego, which I loved that experience, that kind of corporate world, I was crying in the dressing room buying clothes when I graduated college because I just felt so outside of myself, you know? Right. So I think that that's the first thing is that like that inventory is just like physically, do you feel comfortable? Because when I finally got to Refinery, I was able to wear clothes I felt more comfortable in. And that immediately put me in a more relaxed state to be able to kind of show up as myself. And I think the other thing is to really really look at like, from a values perspective, is the subject matter, is the company that I work within something that aligns with me from a values perspective? Because you can work really hard if you feel like your values are aligned. But if you have a values misalignment, what you need to do is really take inventory of where do you put your time when you're not working? You know, where does your attention go? You know, so I was looking at places that were like, you know, I was looking at within my world of media, digital media, I was looking at other places that I was actually consuming media. And I was looking for jobs at those places because I was like, if I enjoy the subject matter here and that's what I'm reading and watching in my free time, that's where I should go and put my energy towards. If I'm working there, maybe I'll be in a better space. You know, I was looking at different music publications. I was looking at different like pop culture places. I had interviewed, with like some pretty notable entertainment brands, you know, so I was kind of really like inching towards something that was different from this luxury high fashion world that I was successful in. And I was very grateful for that success, but I was, you know, because it was going to help open doors. But I also recognized I didn't tell anyone outside my immediate circle where I was working for the first year that I started working at Vogue. I didn't even update my LinkedIn. I was so uncomfortable about working there and what it represented to other people and what people would think of me because I worked there. I was extremely uncomfortable. Exactly. Like the fact I didn't want to tell people would tell people for me when I would be out to dinner, at drinks, meeting new people. Well, yeah, because they're proud, but also it does carry like some kind of social cachet in Manhattan. Like, oh, she works at Vogue. And I'm like, don't tell them that. I'm not what you would think of someone who works at Vogue. I don't care for the fashion in that way. I'm like, please don't tell people. Like, I felt so uncomfortable. You know, I felt like I was being judged. And so again, all those little things, if looked at separately or just one little thing here, one little thing there. Oh, I had a really uncomfortable reaction to when this person told this person I worked there. But if you start to look at them for what they are, that was when I started to be like, I've got to go. And I mean, that took me like, I was there for like 2.5 years. So it took me a while to really like recognize what it was and then make the changes. And you guys know the job hunt is not a quick one. So
that's another key point. It's not something that may come overnight or come right away.
Yeah.
You're like, something feels off, but everything's fine, you know, and maybe it's something that has to happen over time.
Yeah.
You can really kind of assess fully and really put up the board to say like, okay, all of these things are leading to this, you know?
And it's tricky too when there's not like, you know, I was working with some people that I did really like when I was at Vogue. It's not like I was like, you know, 24/7 uncomfortable. And I think that that also then helps you justify staying longer somewhere that you really shouldn't be.
Of course.
Right? Like it makes it hard. And when
stay or keep you.
Yeah. And also like when you really love the people you worked with, right? Like I loved everyone that I worked with at Lego. Like I cried big time when I left my last day. It was a big change because I was moving, but like, you know, it was tough. I really enjoyed my people But I mean, I would come home from work sometimes and I'd be like, oh, I can't take that job. I do not want to do that for my life. Like, I can't do this, because it was different from what I did when I got to Style and Vogue. But yeah, you know, I mean, again, that's like, you know, if you think about it, and I kind of positioned it to myself, and this is maybe like a good tip for like how to take an inventory, is like, if this person left, like my favorite person in the office, my 3 favorite people in the office, the people I work with the most, or this team, if this thing changed, if this person left, if they got let go, would I still feel the same about this job? If the location of this job changed, if it was further away and more difficult to get to, would I still be okay with this job? You know, some things that become like, some things that are out of your control that you know are going to really affect you, then not like I'm going to go before this, you know, I'm going to go before this happens. But, you know, you probably should put some things in place to get yourself to a new job that is more more enjoyable, more something that aligns with you, and not factors that are really out of your control, like a colleague leaving, or, you know, the commute changing, you know, what have you, you know? Yeah. Don't just, yeah, I know. That's just something, I don't know. That was just something that, like, those were a bunch of little things that like helped me.
Yeah. That helped
me. Yeah.
I love that. That's really good, because we're talking about, you know, assessing and all of that. And I feel like that comes easier for us. But a lot of people, like you said in the beginning, they really don't default to introspection.
Yeah.
So it's important to highlight, you know, how one can get to that if they're not, you know, if that's not their automatic response. But dare I say, it's important to do, no matter what your career path is, whether you're an entrepreneur, an employee, or a CEO, or whatever it is. It's very important to check in, because when we think about it, this is our life that we do every single day. Just like that cliche, you know, phrase, like, oh, it's not important the day you were born, the day you died, the dash. Like, no, but seriously, it's your entire life. It makes up each of these days. Spend your days. Like, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? The work that, you know, you put your hands to and all that type of stuff. Like, that's what matters. That's what makes your life. That's what's going to determine, are you joyful? Do you have, you know, peace? And, you know, are you anxious? What is it about you that you either love or hate?
Yeah.
So I love that. One thing go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, when you finally paint that picture and you figure out, like, okay, I'm either here where I'm on purpose, or I'm just totally out of alignment and I need to fix it. That whole transition period, and how we can, what it feels like to pivot, and how you stay focused when you're in a pivotal phase is so crucial. And I feel like you and we have some notches on our belt to be able to talk about that. What would you say? Because our experiences in becoming entrepreneurs were different.
Yeah.
So kind of yours came a little bit more haphazardly, even though you had the thought process for a while.
Yeah.
But, you know, and mine was more gradual. Like, what kept you focused on your goals, like, in that time when you were transitioning?
Oh, that's a tricky one for me, because like, I do feel like I had as much of a plan, in that I knew I could trust myself to figure this out. But I was trusting a version of myself that didn't exist yet.
Yeah, that's good.
You know, and I think, just going to time mark that one, because I feel like that's a good sentence. But I feel like I was so down when I left my job, and I was so far from the highest version of myself, that I had to trust that I would be able to find my way back to Ellyn. And this makes me like emotional, because I felt so far from my true sense of self, my true self of who I am. And I am a motivated person. I'm a go-getter, and I'm definitely not going to like fail, you know? And I think that I put so much of that I will not fail into my career, that I totally burned myself out in a world that wasn't really the right place for me to be putting all of that I will not fail energy. And now that I quit, had a semblance, I had an idea of, I want to, entertainment content. I'm going to do something for I don't know what it is. I didn't have it clear. And I took 2 months completely off of just literally not thinking about work at all. And just kind of like, just relaxing, to be honest, and binge watching a Turkish romance show. Yeah, on YouTube. Who were we kidding? It was like 5 shows, but whatever. And, then I noticed, and I just kind of like kept kind of tweaking. And I would say like, oh, by this point in the year, I'm going to be making the money I need to be making. And by this point in the year, I'm going to be making the money. And I'm going to, I'll be fine. Like, I'm not going to be able to make money by this point. And I think I just really kind of stayed consistent with a belief in myself that I would get to be the version of myself that would be able to then hustle for myself. I would get back to the Ellyn that I knew I could be, that could do this, because I felt so far from that. And the idea of like, it's a long-term thing. And it's like, when you're trying to like get to a place, you start to be like, okay, well, what's every day? What does the everyday look like to get there? And it's not something you just wake up with the ability of like, okay, like this is my 1-year plan. This is my 30, 60, 90. You know what I mean? And it's like, when you're struggling with like depression and you're struggling with like motivation and you're struggling with all these different things that had started to really, really, like I said, this mountain got bigger. And I don't know how it got bigger because it was smaller a couple of years ago. It's like, damn, how did this happen? And it's like, God, I've gone so far down this path, 3 years down, and the mountain's bigger and I feel worse than I've ever felt. Like, and I kind of just spent the last 1.5 years. It'll be 2 years in June, which is crazy.
That's crazy.
We'll have a year of our podcast in like 1.5 months, but like 2 years being out of that job and out of that career. And knowing that I don't have it all figured out and I don't have the income I used to have, but that peace is what gives me the ability to be consistent, because I am every day protecting that peace, and every day makes me a little bit more able to look ahead at 30, 60, 90. What's the year ahead? And I think you guys listening to this podcast, and, you've even said to me, like, you can even see change in how I speak, and you can even see in like, I'm like this, I'm more motivated than I've been, and I have a plan in place, and I'm still not like 100% every single day I wake up and these are what my hours are spent on. And this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm working towards it. And I still struggle.
Yeah.
But there is that, I just held on to that like little tiny ember, that candle of like, I believe in myself enough that I know I can take the leap, and I'm not even who I need to be yet to be able to be successful in whatever this thing is. Yeah. But I believe in myself enough to know I will get there. And that was it. That was literally it. I was like, I know I will not allow myself, because once I acknowledged like, okay, what's the worst that can happen? I was like, I will not let that happen. And I need to check my ego, and I need to check my pride, and I need to check all these other things at the door. And I'm constantly working against my, pride and ego of like, this was the career I had and this was this. And like, I did have somebody reach out recently about like a high school reunion, and I was just like, oh God, what am I going to say? I don't have this like illustrious career to go and impress everyone with. And I was like, whoa, where did that freaking thought come from? You have not felt that way in a long time. You should be so proud that you're hustling in this way, and then of course, like this, the doubt of like, oh, you're 35 and you haven't like achieved. And I was just like, I caught myself in that thought spiral, and I was like, that is not who you are. That's not who you want to be. That's not what's important to me. And you need to check it, change it, and chuck it. My friend taught me that about anxiety. She was like, yeah, check it, change it. If you can't change it, chuck it. And I was like, okay, I like that. Yeah. But that was definitely, it's been a journey. I mean, you guys have been here for it, but that in the very beginning, I was like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
I was like, what did I sign up for?
What you mentioned is like, you mentioned that little ember. And for me, I think, so what I heard from you is that you really focus on the fact, like, I know I'm not going to fail. I know I'm going to do what I need to do to make my dreams come true, or whatever it is. And I think I had some of that, but really what it was for me was hope. You know, it was just like, I never gave up hope. And I'm so happy that that like sustained me, because I'm always thinking, I have this very positive outlook, and I like to think that I'm not that person who's just like positive, like blind positivity.
Yeah, the toxic positivity people talk about now. Yeah.
Girl, this is unrealistic.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, it's hope that I know that I have certain things in my control. I have the wherewithal. I have the resources. I'm in my right mind. I'm healthy. I, you know, am smart. I'm intelligent. I know that I can do all these things. And so that sustained me with hope to know that, okay, I can get the things that God has placed in my heart. Like, it's not there for no reason. You know what I mean? So that sustained me. And then beyond that, when I actually had, beyond having the thought or the idea of like taking that first leap of faith or whatever it was, then it was actually taking the steps. And I feel like a lot of things have led me to this particular moment in life, because I've struggled in the past with consistency, no matter what it was, you know, and I've been consistent enough to like hit certain goals, whether it was weight loss goals or career goals or whatever it might be, a challenge. But doing things long term, it took a while, years, to realize that it literally just takes a little bit of work each day to do the things, and take that with a grain of salt. I don't mean like, oh, I did 30 minutes of work and everything's gonna you know? But it's just like never allowing, you know, I don't know, procrastination, you know, grief, whatever it is, to get the best of me. Some days you might only have 30 minutes in you. That's fine, you know, because life does its thing and you need to kind of move with the flow. You got to have some type of, you know, agility about you.
Yeah, 100%.
But it's been the constant hope and realizing that I just have to be consistent. You know, I have to know that sometimes things don't happen on my watch, and that's for the best sometimes.
Yes.
So that idea of just kind of doing something to work towards the goal, reassessing, pivoting, all of these things work together to create the life where you can achieve all the things. You know?
100%.
Yeah, and adjusting your mindset so that you're not fighting yourself because you didn't hit the goal when you thought you wanted to reach it.
Yep.
But, you know, accepting that, okay, well, this is it. Do it with a smile or whatever, or do it without a smile, whatever it is, and just move on. So.
And that's, I think the thing at the end of the day is being able to make those commitments to yourself every day, because it compounds, you know, it's a compounding effect of like, okay, every day I'm going to do this thing and every day I'm going to do this thing. And then they become those, you know, we talk about atomic habits, but it becomes this thing that you don't have to think about anymore. And then you can add more or new or evolved behaviors every day that then helps you continue to get towards where you want to go, you know? And it's like, it's not perfect every day, but the more that you pay attention, you know, I have this how do I word it? I have this like occasional scarcity mindset when it comes to food. Okay. And I sometimes will do more, take more, have more just for the sake of more, because I don't know why. I don't know where that sense of scarcity comes from, you know, but I've noticed it where, you know, I did something and I was like, that didn't even taste good. Why did I have more? Like, why was that? Why did I need more of that? Or I wanted more of that, or I wasn't, you know, whatever it was. And it was something that I didn't really I would never have like really pointed out to myself in a way that was like, oh, like that's actually something I can work on. That's actually something I can look at and not have be. And this isn't even like career focused. It's just something in my everyday life that I'm just like, I don't need that. I don't need that extra big cup of coffee. I could just have the regular size cup of coffee. I don't need that much more. Why did I need to fill the cup to the brim? If that's the size that I like usually have, and you're feeling, it needs to be more. Like, it's just, what is that? And so in my journaling most recently, like I really have like looked at it and been like, okay, I need to like notice those feelings of like why I feel a sense of like needing more. And like that idea of like, oh, there's not enough, you know, there's enough. If I need another if I want to have another cup of coffee, put another K-pod in and like have another cup of coffee. Like you don't need to be doing 2 K-cups just to be overflowing a cup of coffee. Like just have the 1 cup. And if you feel the need to have another cup, have another cup.
Have another cup.
You know? And that consciousness of being able to be in yourself enough and notice things is because I have put all these other habits in place that I'm not worrying about racing to get to the next thing. Well, now I'm waking up early enough that I can journal, and I'm waking up early enough that I'm not rushing to my Pilates class. So now I'm like going a little bit slower in the morning. And in that slowness, I'm noticing, oh, why did I do that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, how do I feel? Well, how do I feel about that actually? Because I never even noticed it before. Now I've noticed it. How do I feel about it? I think that's even just a very small exercise that people can do like today, right now, you know? Oh, like I know a lot of people like involuntarily will open the TikTok app. And this TikTok ban that was gone for 12 hours, like people were like, oh my God, I opened it like 55 times. And you know, and I'm just like, thankfully I didn't do that. That was not a behavior that I had in that 12-hour period. And, but that's something that you can look at. That's something you can look at and be like, okay, like what's like, maybe I need to have a thought about this. Now I need to think, okay, well, how do I feel about this? And then it's going to take some discipline if you want to move away from that behavior, or if you're okay with the behavior as is, you know, but at least you have a conscious awareness of something as opposed to this just like involuntary. And that's very small. That's a very small example.
Exactly.
Of a practice you can put in place.
Right, exactly. But it's so interchangeable with anything that you could do. So, you know, and those small things make up bigger things. Because maybe it is, maybe it seems so small just opening the app, but maybe that's going to save you 12 hours every week.
Oh, yes.
You know, like that's going to give you a part of your life back where you didn't have time to do whatever it is, you know, something that matters most to you. So,
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Guys, I just love doing this podcast. Oh,
same.
You know, I just love doing this podcast, and I just really appreciate that we're able to like not only talk about this stuff with each other, because truly, like at the end of the day, these are the kinds of conversations we have, but like it does give you some time to really think about and reflect on your life and like what, you know, what changes do I need to make, or like what goals do I have that align or no longer align, or how do I recommit to a goal, you know? And I just feel so grateful that we dedicate time to do this every week and that we have these kind of intentional conversations. And I hope that you guys are listening.
You are listening.
Yeah. I hope that you guys that are listening are also feeling those kind of takeaways and feeling that kind of like, maybe you want to share like goals that you're working on, or, goals that you were working on that no longer are a goal for you, as an example. I would love to see those like in comments on social media or on Spotify or YouTube, wherever you guys are listening or watching. I'd love to hear like what some people that are listening to the podcast, like what their perspective is on like goals that have changed for themselves. I'm so curious.
Right. And I know we're earlier in the year, we're still in the first quarter of the year, but it's still, things can change so fast. And we saw that with the way that this year started.
Oh.
So it's important to realize that, goals aren't things that, we set at the top of the year and then we forget it until June or December.
Yeah.
Like something that if it's an actual goal that we want to reach, like we went over our vision boards and certain things that we want to achieve, it's like, I got to be checking in with these things often, you know what I mean? And reassess as much as I need to in order to reach those goals,
Yes.
And that's what really excites me, because I feel like, in this year, now it's my second year. I'm into my second year of entrepreneurship, and it's like I've already gone through a cycle thus far, where I know that I can do it. And now I'm like even more intentional about like the long-term stuff. It's no longer me trying to prove to myself that I can actually do this.
Yeah.
No, now I'm in the mindset and I'm in that phase where I'm like, we can do it. So now we can really make some things happen. So
yes.
Really hone in.
Yes.
And go after those things and, just stay laser focused on that. So,
yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Remember I was like, I didn't even know I could make money doing this thing that I'm doing,
right.
At the beginning of last year. And then I like had some brands come in and now I'm like, oh, it's not like a once a month thing. I'm making money. Now I'm making money like consistently each month. Okay. Well, how do I grow that? How does this become that income that I need so that everything else can fall in line?
Yeah, absolutely.
You guys.
I can plank on a million.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God. Yeah. That's going to be the quote. I want to do a plank on a million. What song is that from?
I'm planking on a million. I can hear it so clearly, but I can't.
Gonna do that.
Well,
if I'm paying for Spotify Premium, I'm gonna use. I'm gonna use my little search function. Planking. It sounds so bad when I say it. Planking on a million. Planking on a million. Planking. Gotta have it.
By who?
Jay-Z,
yes,
Kanye.
Jay-Z, Kanye. That's right.
Oh, I love this song.
This song is so good.
What's up? Okay, I'm just gonna skip to the part. Oh my God, I love this song.
White America. That's my character. That's my
Wade. Where my money at? Okay, wait, I'm looking. Mummy wrapped. I love this part.
That's so
just want my some racks on rags.
Okay, so here it is.
On black, stand laying racks on tracks. I wish I could I'm clicking on the million. I'm riding through your hood. Going on South Shore Drive.
This is such a good song.
It's so good. Watch The Throne.
Oh, no, stop. I did not go to that concert. Wait, you went to that concert?
Listen, hold on. Quick story. I went to that concert and I just knew, like on the Shade Room or wherever it was, Beyonce was going to a lot of the concerts. So I was like, oh my gosh. And they had 2 stages. So my friend and I, we were like front row to the second stage.
Oh.
Right? So I'm looking for Beyonce. I'm like, oh my God, like she's here. I see Julius, whatever. I'm looking so hard for Beyonce. Literally, Jay-Z walks right past me. Oh my God. And I had my camera out or whatever, but it was just so amazing. And that was when Ninjas in Paris came out. And they did that song. I think we went to the one in Mohegan Sun.
Oh, wow.
They did the song back.
Oh.
They did it like 6 or 7 times. And every single time it was liver than the last time.
Oh my God. I love that. I love when they are just like, yeah, we're going to do a song a couple times in a row because we know everyone loves it that much.
We know you love it. Exactly. You're playing it out on the radio, so we might as well.
Oh my God. I love that album. That's one of my favorite albums.
An absolute.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Guys, we definitely recommend listening to it. Give it a stream. And just, I like to separate the art from the artist. So I understand I understand where the money's flowing when I listen to these songs, but I also cannot do myself a disservice by not enjoying songs I like.
Thank you.
So
okay.
that part
made me bop.
To this day. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go listen to it now while I do some work. All right, guys. Thank you all so much for listening to this podcast. We appreciate you. Like, comment, subscribe, share,
Share.
Yeah, seriously.
Helping you.
Yeah.
It can help somebody else. It's helped us. We're helping each other.
Yep.
So this is vital information for people who are starting a business, just looking for life advice or whatever you want to call it, insight,
Yeah. Oh, shout out. I got a message from one of my high school guidance counselors, Mrs. Karen Ray Steele. She messaged me on Facebook Messenger to tell me how much she likes the podcast, how proud of me she is, and how she loves our energy and how we are together. and that she shared it with her great nieces.
Oh my God.
How sweet is that?
It's amazing. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Miss Steele. Appreciate you. Shout out if you are the nieces. Thank you for listening. Share it with your friends.
Yes. Quick little TikTok.
Yeah. Text this to your girlfriends in your group chat. You all have a group chat. We all know you have a group chat, everyone. Text the link to this podcast to your group chat. Okay. Yeah. Well, motivation.
Just a little bit.
Oh gosh. All right. Well, we appreciate you all. Thank you so much. And we will see you on the next one. Bye. The Regents Podcast. The Regents Podcast.